Today, we're going to go over the 2026 steamer projections for the Chicago White Sox infielders, which includes Mune with a 30-plus home run projection. They're really down on Colson Montgomery, and there's a surprise war leader for the White Sox when it comes to the position players. But first, if you're ready for White Sox baseball, hit that like button. And when you're done with that, comment "Go Sox" down below. It really helps us out a lot as we get this page up and running. Munetaka Murakami is projected to hit 32 home runs, and I think that that's a pretty good number. It seems very exciting that he can really generate some power in the middle of the White Sox lineup. Steamer projects Mune to play 136 games with a .230 batting average, 32 home runs, 85 RBIs, and a 2.1 WAR with an OPS hovering around 800. And that is buoyed by his on-base and slugging, obviously. But the on-base percentage, he's got a very good batting eye. And so I think when we look at his season at the end of the year, we'll see a growth from him as we go through the season. Now, he's hit 50-plus home runs a couple of different times in Japan. And I think the reason that they're at 32, which is by no means a low projection for home runs, is that one, major league pitching on a day-to-day in and out basis is stronger than the Japanese leagues. But really the questions for Mune have been, how can he handle the high velocity pitching? And that's what gave major league teams pause, and that's what gave the White Sox the opportunity to sign him in the first place. So what I think we'll see is early on, it'll take him a little time to get used to that constant high velocity that we see here in the major leagues. But as we go through the season, I have no doubt that he's going to adjust and start to really flash that power, especially once the weather warms up in Chicago, where we know balls fly out in that right field. Now, the projection systems are quite down on Colson Montgomery this year. And I think that the way that his season went last year, when you look at the fact that he revamped his whole swing at the beginning of the season in Arizona with White Sox hitting instructors, it allowed him to unlock some things that he had when he was coming up through the high school system. So because of that, his numbers may not be as strong in the minor leagues as you would expect for a guy who came up and did what he did last season. The steamer projections for Colson Montgomery are 116 games played, a .220 batting average, 23 home runs, 66 RBIs, and a 2.2 WAR. Now, it's not just steamer. Other projection systems are also down on him. They all think we're going to see regression from him in regards to his power numbers. They think his average will stay fairly similar, but go down a little bit. And I'm just not sure that they're correct. I think what we'll see out of Colson Montgomery is closer to that 30-plus home run mark. As long as he can stay healthy, he showed a lot when it came to playing the shortstop position last season, and he was much stronger out the gate than I think many people, myself included, thought he would be. But when you look at what he did after when he came up on the 4th of July, 71 games, a .239 batting average, 21 homers, 55 RBIs, and a 3.3 WAR in just those 71 games. So I really think that when you look at the season that we think Colson Montgomery can have, it looks a lot stronger than those projection systems. Even if he regresses a little on his home run rate, if he plays a full season, 100, even if he misses a couple weeks for injury, I think we're for sure looking at a 30-plus homer guy on him, which would be a great middle of the lineup and a nice change from what we've seen out of the White Sox with Mune and Colson as two guys who should be in the 30-plus home run mark. Please share and subscribe to this page. Again, as I said, we're trying to get this thing going to join our Bears, Bulls, Cubs, and Blackhawks pages. Our first goal is 100 subscribers. We need 63 more to get there. There's a surprising war leader when it came to the projection systems for the Chicago White Sox, and that's Chase Meidroth. They project him to lead the White Sox in WAR playing 107 games with a 261 batting average, scoring 61 runs with a 356 OBP, and posting a 2.6 WAR, the highest projection of all White Sox position players. I think that when it comes to Chase Meidroth, he really does do a lot of things well. He runs the bases well. He'll steal some bases. He gets on base at a high clip. There's just not a ton of power there, which hurts his ceiling. But I think we're looking at a guy who should be consistently a 2.5, 3 WAR player for the White Sox over the next couple years. He also plays fantastic defense at second base, which will help Mune at first and Colson at shortstop in an effort to really help the pitchers out over the last couple years where they've played subpar defense, especially in the historically bad season. Meidroth doesn't really do anything elite, but he does do a lot of things really well. Rounding out the infield is Miguel Vargas and Lenyn Sosa. Vargas is really projected to do a similarly to what he did last season. And then really for Lenyn Sosa, he's not going to play as much. The projection models say that. I think we all know that. When it comes to at-bats, I think there's a lot more spreading around it's going to be than just having Lenyn Sosa DH every day. Miguel Vargas' projection is 111 games, 238 batting average, 14 home runs, 53 RBIs with a 1.8 WAR. And Lenyn Sosa, 82 games, 253 batting average, 12 homers, 36 RBIs, and a 0.4 WAR. Now, can Vargas improve on 25 is the real question. He posted a 791 OPS after the All-Star break, and he really looked to figure out a few things when it came to his approach at the plate. He had more power, more on base, and higher batting average all post All-Star break. So I think that when we look at Miguel Vargas, what we're going to try to see is, can he continue to improve like he did in the second half of last season? Because if so, he could be an important player, and he's shown a lot of the traits that made him such a highly thought of prospect with the Dodgers, and then obviously with the White Sox as well, because they went and traded for him. Lenyn Sosa, I think he's a good player, but we're not going to see anywhere near 22 home runs out of him this year, barring a major injury to a member of the infield that forces him out there every day, because he's just not very good in the field. They haven't really been able to find a good position for him. So I think we'll see him in more of a utility role because he can play third, second, and first at an okay level. And what we'll see from him is some DH at-bats. But I think the 82 games is pretty fair as far as how much we think we'll see from Lenyn Sosa from a playing time perspective. And so with that in mind, I think that those projections seem to line up. Whereas the other ones that I mentioned, when Mune, Colson, and Miguel Vargas, they all have the potential to really not just smallly improve on these projections, but they have an opportunity to blow them all out of the water. Because, like I said, Colson really, really was strong last season. Vargas had a great second half. And Mune, it's a bit of an unknown, but I'll take the guy who can hit 55 home runs in Japanese leagues any day of the week. And so I'm really excited to see what this infield can do. I think this will be the heart of the White Sox offense, and I'm really excited for baseball to start. So as we get closer and closer, please check in with us here, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere you might find White Sox content. And as always, go White Sox.